from the Fox 5 studios, this is Silver State Sports Live.
Business trip, business handled. Happy Victory Friday, Raider Nation. Welcome into Silver State Sports Live. I'm Mariah Janos. I know it's only preseason, but let's take the wins while we can, people. The Raiders got it done against the Texans. There was an expectation for Fernando Mendoza to take another step forward last night in his first pro start, but this is a game of checks and balances. All I can say is, welcome to the NFL, bud. We'll start with a positive. Early in the first quarter, Fernando Mendoza with the strike to Jalen Naylor. There was only one place to put this ball, and the Nandalorian pulled it off with the pinpoint accuracy. Nice grab by Naylor for the completion there. And just a minute and a half later, there it is. Play action. Mendoza's check down pass intended for Mike Washington Jr. intercepted by Wade Wood as the rookie takes it to the house for a pick six. Houston with a 17-0 lead after the first. The second doesn't start out much better. 2nd and 1, Caden McDonald is on a mission and he completes it, taking down Mendoza for a loss of 11 yards on the play. The rookie QB would ultimately move the offense enough to secure a field goal before the half, finishing the day completing 8 of 15 for 86 yards, 1 interception, and 1 sack. The second half, though, that was all Aiden O'Connell staging the comeback. It began with a Dylan Laube 4-yard run to the outside, gets into the end zone to cut the deficit in half, entering the fourth. Another back delivers here. Dare Agubawale, the workhorse, making the most of his time on the field. He takes it 19 yards, staying just inside the pylon. It's a one-score game. And with under a minute to go, one last drive to make it happen. AOC chucks up the deep ball to the middle, and Brandon Johnson comes down with it just a yard shy of the goal line. A little tush-push action to close this thing out. O'Connell keeps it and tallies the go-ahead score, and that would do it. Raiders win 22-20, but not the performance everyone was hoping for out of the rookie. Fernando Mendoza, of course, here he was on the pick six.
It was play action play and went through my progression. Probably should have checked it down to the flat, saw the flat player relate to him. And at that point, I started backing up and threw the check down to Mike Washington, and it was not a good throw. We weren't on the same page, and it was a interception. I came away that there's a lot of more learning to do, and that although that maybe he had a lot of success at another level, that this level's a whole step further, and that the margins are so small, and that one tiny mistake can lead to catastrophe. So want to make sure that best serve my teammates and get better from these experiences.
I think it's plenty to clean up, plenty to get better at. Plenty that we can do better for him as coaches, plenty that he can learn from. But what great heart that we showed in the second half. The whole team, offense, defense. Really proud of our guys.
All right, so let's take a look at the tail of the tape here. It's kind of surprisingly good. Preseason is all about overreacting, right? So I'm going to take a moment to really appreciate this. The Raiders racked up 400 total yards on offense. The last time they got even close to that, December of 2024, when they put up 388 yards against the Saints. 241 yards through the air, 159 on the ground. We love to see the run game get going, and averaging nearly 6 yards per play. That's more than double that they averaged last season. Certainly not used to seeing these types of numbers with the Raiders teams of the past. So here's hoping it can translate to the regular season, fingers crossed. But to help me dive a little deeper into what we saw last night, join me in welcoming Steve Cofield of ESPN Radio Las Vegas. All right, Steve, Fernando Mendoza, he didn't produce the most desirable stat line, but there were certainly some positives in his performance, some flashes there of the talent. What's your evaluation of Mendoza's first pro start?
Well, I think you can build off the first start. The second start, there were some ugly moments, and obviously the interception that's a crucial mistake. You can't do that. He focused in on the receiver for way too long, and they did not see the linebacker spying him. And then to compound the mistake, you probably don't need to in the preseason try to go down the field and make the tackle, but he showed decent poise. Listen, one of the stories of the game is the offensive line is still very much a work in progress, and this kind of represents the overall story, which is for all these national media people and then a couple of people in Raider Nation who are like, hey, Mendoza's got to start right out of the gates. What do they have to lose? Well, they have to lose his confidence. They don't have an offensive line right now that is working, to 100% capacity. It's not settled yet. So why put him out there behind in regular season games behind an offensive line that is not settled? So I don't want to get too high. I don't want to get too low. So I didn't get too high after game one. I'm not going to get too low after game two. This is all a learning process. I will tell you, though, I do believe, and I've said this for a couple of weeks, that AOC going into the season should be the number 2, and Mendoza should be in street clothes. He should be the emergency quarterback. AOC is ready to be a backup. And that was one of the things that came out, ready to be the backup. That was one of the things that came out of this is that, listen, the second half, it's, 2s and 3s on 3s. They do have one of the best third-string quarterbacks in the league, and AOC probably should be the second-string quarterback for at least the first 6 games of the season. If they're trying to win games and Kirk Cousins goes down, AOC should be out there.
Well, you just teed me up perfectly because I was about to get into that. Aiden O'Connell taking over that second half. He did his thing, highlighted by that 33-yard deep ball in the game-winning drive. So you expect him to bump Mendoza down the depth chart at least to start? Or is this just what's expected of a quarterback entering his 4th season in preseason, though?
It is what is expected. If you're going to make a roster and you're in your 4th season and he's got as much experience as he does, he should play well against the 3s and sometimes 4s in the second half. Now, I'm not saying that he's bumping Mendoza officially down. I'm saying that's what I would do. I would have Mendoza as the emergency quarterback, and I would have AOC as the guy ready to play if Kirk Cousins goes down. I don't know what Kubiak's going to do. I don't know if the staff in general, management in general, believes that would hurt Mendoza's confidence. I think you just explain the process to him, like, we want you to learn, and the best way to learn if you're on the sideline is to actually not have to kind of worry about going in. You can truly watch if you're not the number 2, and AOC can be a pretty solid number 2.
Yeah, Mendoza's a pretty analytical guy. I'm sure he would just take the feedback and roll with it. I don't know if he'd really be shaken by it that much, but I want to move on to the rookie running back, Mike Washington Jr. Explosive runs in back-to-back games. Now, how do you foresee Clint Kubiak using the rookie back in tandem with Ashton Jeanty?
Oh, I think early on he's just going to be a relief back. I don't know that he gets more than, say, 7 touches a game. But I'm not in the meeting, so I don't know if they view Jeanty as a guy who can take the beating. I think he can. And listen, when you take a guy top 7 in the draft, he's got to be able to go out there and get 300 touches a year. I think this is a massive year for Ashton Jeanty, and as long as the line, once they get their chemistry, once they figure out if JPJ is going to be in or if JPJ is going to be on the sideline or with another organization, and they shore up that guard spot. They figure out officially if Glaze is the tackle or if Trey Coon's going to eventually be the tackle. Hopefully by week 4 or 5, they've got the line settled. But no, Jeanty's going to be the workhorse. And the other thing I expect from Jeanty is I think he's going to get a very healthy dose of touches in the air. I think he should be targeted 60 to 75 times this year. So I'm not sure what room there's going to be for Washington, but certainly encouraging. I mean, he looks like a really good 4th-round pick, and very many, a lot of scouts were high on him. He's a bigger back than Jeanty. So, if you need to pound the ball every once in a while, he could be the guy. I mean, good signs early on.
All right, Steve Cofield live at Golden Circle Sports Bar at Treasure Island for Cofield and Company today. You can listen to his show Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. on ESPN Las Vegas, 100.9 FM. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate you as always.
Thank you.
All right, still to come on Silver State Sports Live, the Aces secured the much-needed win over the Sun. We got the highlights and Willie G on the other side of the break.
You're watching Silver State Sports Live.
Well, the Aces are back in the win column and back to 3rd in the WNBA standings after closing out last night's 5-game homestand against the Connecticut Sun. Considering the Sun have the 2nd worst record in the league, you'd expect this to be a blowout from the jump. But you know the Aces, they like to play with their food first, dangle it a little bit. So we're going to pick things up early in the first. Asia Wilson hits Jackie Young on the backdoor cut. Aces up by 1 after 1. Then on to the second now. Aces trailing by 4. This helped. Asia from mid-range does her thing, hits the turnaround jumper. Vegas holds on to the 1-point lead at the half. Remember how I said this team likes to play with their food? Yeah, this is what I mean. A 1-point game for the entire first half, and then boom, the floodgates open. Young cooking between the legs. Step back 3. Becky Hammond is loving it. The Aces kicking into gear in the 3rd, outscoring the Sun 27-16. And how about a little facilitation from Stephanie Talbot in the fourth? The bounce to Jewel Lloyd to finish with the reverse. Aces cruise to a much-needed 101-78 victory. Here's Becky after the game.
Sometimes I'm worried and sometimes I'm not. Like, I know what we're capable of, so that brings me peace. The consistency and sometimes our lack of consistency on that part, that keeps me up at night. So it can be a blend, but I know they're capable. And so the weirdest thing is they play better when I'm a jerk to them. So I guess I gotta coach y'all harder.
All right, joining me now to break this one down is Willie G. Ramirez, senior staff writer of ballislife.com. All right, Willie, how needed was this win after what unfolded in that previous game against the Dream?
Well, it sounds like what's more needed is she needs to continue to be a jerk to them because it's a good win, obviously, but it's also against one of the worst teams in the league. So it's time that they step up and start playing well against playoff contending teams because it's something that's become troubling. Remember last year, it took an Asia Wilson text to the entire roster saying, hey, either get on the same page with us or don't bother showing up to the facility. And they went on a 16-game run, and they won the last 16 games of the season. They went on a 24-game stretch, Mariah, 18-6, averaging 92 points, allowing 85.9 points per game, and they never lost back-to-back games. They're now on a 3-4 slide. They may be coming off a win, but they've lost 4 of their last 7. They're scoring 85 points, and they're allowing 89, and twice they've lost back-to-back games. That's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you look at the remainder of the regular season schedule, pretty light work it should be with the league's bottom feeders, 2 in Toronto, 2 in Seattle, then LA, Phoenix. How imperative is it that the Aces roll through these last 6 contests just from a seeding standpoint? I know Becky says she doesn't care about seeding, but the top 8 teams right now, it's going to be a good playoff series.
It is going to be a good playoff series, and depending on where that bottom team falls out, wherever it pans out, and wherever they finish, second or third, and right now it looks like they probably will go third or fourth because I don't know if anyone's catching Minnesota or Golden State. Indiana's playing well, although they lose to Dallas, which was missing AZ Fudd. So I just don't know if they're ready to handle a 5th, 6th. A team against the 5th or 6th seed, especially if they face the Washington Mystics. It's very dangerous. So it's beyond imperative that they close out. Like, realistically, it sounds crazy. They should win the rest of their games. They should focus on trying to finish it out. Yes, they've clinched a playoff seed, but they realistically have to finish on a winning run, not because of who they may play, who they may not play, not focusing on who their first-round opponent is. More so than anything, they want to finish with momentum, playing well, because we saw what happened last season when they finished on a run with confidence building in their own facility and within the team and building up. This is the core is back, right? With Jackie, with Chelsea, with Asia, with Melissa. Is Dana going to be healthy? You have new contributors to this team. I love what I'm seeing from Yamamoto. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a tiny player, but let me tell you, forget about the three-point shooting. She'll defend anybody and has no fear. The rest of the team should get the fearless attitude that Yamamoto has, because that's the attitude they need to have the rest of the regular season.
Yeah, she has been so fun to watch. Now, we just heard it from Becky. You just listed off kind of the jarring stats of what's been going on in their last stretch of games. We know what the Aces are capable of when they lock in. The issue has been effort this season. How concerned are you at this point?
I'm not concerned about effort because I think that what you have are a group of veterans who have won championships in Chelsea Gray and Asia Wilson and Jackie Young and Jewel Lloyd. They not only have championships, they have Olympic gold medals. So they know what it takes to get to the top. What I'm most worried about with this team is its defense. The defense, it's the rest of the league that's figured out how to score against the Las Vegas Aces. And when they put them on their heels, it forces the Aces to start chucking up the shots. And if the shots aren't falling, you can get open looks all you want. There's no guarantee. Just because you're a sharpshooter, we'll see it all the time. We saw it last night. Caitlin Clark had an off night. Dallas beats him in Dallas. No easy FUD. Paige Beckers had an off night. and the wings end up beating the fever. So anything can happen on an off offensive night. If the Las Vegas Aces are not playing top-notch defense, they will lose in the first round against a scrappy 6 or 7 seed, bottom line.
Amen to that, Willie. Well, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to talk more ball with you down the road. I'm sure it'll be on Monday or something. So thank you so much.
All right, Brian. Talk to you soon.
All right, Paseo Verde starting off the Little League World Series strong with a walk-off win in Game 1. We'll show you how it happened next.
You're watching Silver State Sports Live.
Well, after rain delays, a walk-off in Williamsport was just what the doctor ordered for the Paseo Verde Little League team. Originally scheduled to kick off their time at the Little League World Series on Thursday, but day 1 was a literal wash. So the Mountain Region champions from Henderson, Nevada had to wait until early this morning to secure a thrilling, hard-fought 6-5 victory over the Great Lakes champions from Hamilton, Ohio. First pitch of the highly anticipated tournament opener was thrown just past 6 a.m. Pacific time. Paseo Verde fell behind early in their game, but battled back in a dramatic 6-inning seesaw matchup. It was the first of 8 games scheduled in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. The team will now advance in the winner's bracket. Way to go, boys. All right, the A's continue to struggle, though, and the list of players on the IL continues to grow. So what's next for the club? Well, our Mike Davis caught up with A's play-by-play broadcaster Jenny Kavnar to discuss the never-ending injuries and the Athletics' outlook on the remainder of the season.
It was pretty surprising, right, that you start to land all these superstars on the IL, and now it almost becomes like you come into the ballpark and you're like, who today? And you're bracing for it. And that's not the position you ever want to see a team in, especially a team with a nice young core like the Athletics. Really, the season started with the disappointing news that their 2-time All-Star and Brent Rooker was going to be on the IL for the rest of the season after having season-ending surgery. And then it just felt like it was blow after blow after blow. And you lose Luis Severino out of your starting rotation early in the season. But really, it's been the piling on in July and into August. And you talk now about the latest in Tyler Soderstrom. This is something he had tried to play through a bit. He went on the IL for before, and now, officially having to have that season-ending hip surgery. Really just kind of another disappointing chapter in what's been really a disappointing second half for the A's. And it surrounds with these injuries, right? You can't ask for this team to have a ton of run production when you're missing a lot of that run production. The top 3 producers in terms of home runs and RBI, you have Shea Langoliers on the IL after his knee surgery. You have Nick Kurtz, of course, on the IL, who's been there, and now Tyler Soderstrom. So very disappointing, no question. But again, with these injuries comes opportunity for a lot of these young guys over the next 6 weeks to kind of prove their worth and where they might belong on this team for the future.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. What do you think about the Big Amish? Do you think we'll see Nick Kurtz? Does it make sense for him to return this season?
I would love to see Nick Kurtz back, because I think for any player who's experienced, a kind of injury like this, to be able to get some live at bats before the end of the year, have a good taste in your mouth going into the offseason, things that you can tangibly work on, that would be great for Nick. At the same time, his health, top priority. We'll just have to see what his progression ends up looking like, because you may just run out of time. You might end up in a point in September where it doesn't make sense to get him back and in the batter's box. But, if he can, he's the ultimate competitor and a guy that would want to get back out there. I just think it's way too early to tell if a decision can be made on that right now.
Okay. Let's talk pitching, because it seems like we can't have in a single game, the bullpen playing at a high level and the starting pitching playing at a high level. Jack Perkins throws a great game last night, and then the bullpen. So how do you think from a pitching standpoint, what do we need to do to get this team to sync up a little bit with that? What are you seeing from your vantage point?
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand, right? You start to look at if you rewind a couple of weeks when the starters weren't giving you much depth, they weren't giving you many innings. You're relying on the bullpen heavily to provide a lot of innings. And all of a sudden, you're starting to get some starters going deeper into games, and that helps alleviate a little bit. But it seems sometimes like that pile-on from a couple of weeks ago shows, or rears its ugly head, so to speak. It's frustrating. There's no question. I mean, if you had all the answers of what the pitching woes are right now, they would be delivered certainly to this team, and the execution would hopefully be in place. But it just has not been the case. And I think too, you're grinding through a lot of young guys. You're asking a lot of young arms in that starting rotation to grow and to grow together. There's really not that veteran presence for them right now. They are going to get Jeffrey Springs back, which will be helpful. But again, you're talking about guys who are in, their second, third seasons of the big leagues. Some of them have, been starters. They've been relievers. They're back in the starting rotation. They're trying to really figure out their roles and iron things out. And so learning at this level, always tough. Developing at this level, always tough. And again, that's just the place that the Athletics are in right now. But yeah, you would love to see something sync up where you get one of those great starts. Let's just go 6 innings. We'll call a great start right now would be awesome in terms of a quality start. And then you can turn over your bullpen who would have roles. They would execute. You'd be shaking hands at the end of the game. Unfortunately, we just haven't seen too many of those on the same exact night. And unfortunately, it shows in the record.
All right, coming up, Fernando Mendoza. We just can't talk enough about the guy, and apparently neither can anybody else. The Raiders rookie making some noise in the sports card world. More on that when we return. Welcome back. Fernando Mendoza, the future of the Las Vegas Raiders, is now the present of Topps trading cards. The #1 overall pick gracing the cover of the 2026 Topps flagship football set. And guess what? It goes live today. You can pick up your packs now. Who knows? You might get lucky and pull a Mendoza rookie autograph or maybe a Brock Bowers jersey insert. Pretty cool stuff. Fernando himself has become a bit of a sports card nerd. He's a nerd about everything, let's be real. So this is a big deal. So for those of you who are into sports cards, go and get them while they're hot. I know I'm going to go get my hands on some too. We'll see you on Monday.